Guys, I've talked on the podcast before about reverse mortgages, and I'm partnered with Movement Mortgage. Movement.com is the website slash Dinesh. But the concept, in my view, is elusive for a lot of people. And so today I have Harlan. He's the National Reverse Mortgage Director at Movement Mortgage. I'm going to press him a little bit more for clarity on how these mortgages actually work, how they can benefit you as a practical matter. So do listen to this with an open mind. By the way, Harlan is the author of a book that I found really fascinating and eye-opening. It's called Home Equity and Reverse Mortgages, the Cinderella of the Baby Boomer Retirement. And I'll tell you later how you can get a copy of this book and learn more than we're even able to cover today. Harlan, welcome. Thank you for joining me. It is a common belief among people. Well, first of all, there's a negative odor around reverse mortgages among some people. They just think, well, I need to stay away from this. It's not a good idea. But others have a somewhat different misconception, I think, and that is, I can only start thinking about a reverse mortgage if I've completely paid off my home is free and clear, and now maybe I can borrow some money to get some equity against the equity that's built up in my home. Can you talk about how an ordinary guy who's, let's say, been paying on his mortgage for a bunch of years, has a good bit of their home paid off, but not all of it, they're still in the process of paying it off. What is a reverse mortgage, and what kind of help can it provide to that kind of a guy who is, let's call it, midstream of paying off their existing mortgage?
Well, I'm that average guy, Dinesh. I had paid my mortgage down, but I had not paid it off because I moved up to a more expensive home that was closer to where my kids lived. And so I was the typical situation of still owing on my mortgage and having a substantial payment when I hit 62, which I could afford to make. It wasn't a problem. I was still working. It wasn't that I was in a financial trouble, but it didn't make sense for me to continue sending $3,000 a month to an illiquid asset because I had better things to do with it. And so there's a lot of people that there's two groups. The one group, they really can't afford to make the payment. They've retired, and that payment that was easy to make when they were working, when the paychecks were coming in, that was simple for them. Now it's not, or they've lost a spouse. And so we want to help those people take their mortgage payment to zero. And they don't have to have it paid down to zero. They just have to have about 60% equity, depending on their age. And let's say they've got a $500,000 house and they've got it paid down to $200,000. That's enough. You don't have to pay it to zero to get rid of the payment. So refinancing a regular mortgage that requires payments to a reverse mortgage that has optional payments is the most powerful use of a reverse mortgage. And that's what I did. I'm part of the second group. I could still afford to make payments, but I didn't want to. And that's where things changed for me is I eliminated that payment, sent more money to my investment advisor to bolster my retirement accounts in my IRAs, 401ks, Roths accounts, and so on. That's really the powerful use of a reverse mortgage, is simply redirecting that cash flow to a better place where it simply makes more sense.
Let me press you on this for further clarity of what it is that when you did this, what is it that you were actually doing? So let's take the example that you gave. You have a $500,000 home. You've paid off $300,000. You still have $200,000 to pay off. And let's say that either you have trouble now making the payment, or you have the money, but you have some other use in the money. You've noticed that there are other investments that are going up really well. Let's just say the federal government is printing money, and so you figure out, hey, I'm gonna put some money in stocks. I'm gonna put some money in gold, or I'm gonna do something else with that money. How does the reverse mortgage sort of jump in and save you from having to continue to make those payments? How do you achieve that?
You described my situation almost perfectly. As soon as I hit 62, my payment was $3,000 a month.
Yep.
I hit 62. I had my 62nd birthday, and I immediately refinance my forward mortgage into a reverse mortgage, and I get no money. I simply eliminate the payment. And so I traded a mortgage that requires a monthly payment to a mortgage that gives me an optional monthly payment. It's really as simple as that. A reverse mortgage, when you're old enough at 62, it just allows you to say, no, I don't want to make a payment anymore because I've got a whole bunch of equity. I want to send it somewhere else. I sent some of the money to gold, some of the money to stocks and bonds, some of the money to annuities and cash value life insurance. And my net worth dramatically increased over the last 3 years, just like all of my clients have, because they sent it to a better place. We all know what happened to gold. We know what happened to some stocks and bonds, and those are things that I simply increased over on the other side. Now, what happened is what people are afraid of. Oh, but I had negative equity. I lost equity. Yes, I spent or used $100,000 worth of equity in my house over the last 3 years. I have a house that's worth about 1.5, but in that situation, I was able to increase the other side of the equation by over 2.5 times that. So I lost a little bit of equity in my right pocket, but gained way more cash in my left pocket because I had more options of what to do with that money. And people can say, well, the last 3 years was incredibly easy to make money. There's always a way to make money, but if you want to make a payment, we'll accept the payments. If you say, I don't have any place to put money that's better than paying off my house, well, then pay off your house and send the money to your equity, because we will refund it to you whenever you want that money back if you make a payment on a reverse mortgage. You can't do that with a forward mortgage. With a traditional forward mortgage, once you pay in, you can't get it back without refinancing. We don't require you to refinance. We'll just give you the money back that you sent us at any time that you want, because you were never required to send it in the first place. A very different way of thinking.
I think this is actually really important, because what you're saying is that when you are locked into a long-term mortgage, 15 years, 30 years, this is sort of like a burden that you cannot normally get out of. If you get out of it, you basically fall in arrears, then you default, then they start putting a lien on your house. And what you're saying is that there's always alternative uses for money, and that if you can think of a better way to use your money for whatever purpose, whether it's to give it to your kids, or whether it is to give Christmas presents, or whether it is to invest it in better things than just putting it into the mortgage itself, because you're getting the appreciation on your house no matter what, right? In other words, if your house goes up in value, you're in the house, you do have a mortgage, your house is going to go up in value, you're going to get the benefit of that. The reverse mortgage is introducing an element of flexibility that most people, by the way, including me, would not normally have thought of. Is that an accurate summary?
Well, it's so true. People think nothing of taking money out of a savings account. They think nothing of taking money out of their IRA or their 401k, Dinesh, but they just kind of, well, I don't want to take money out of my house. Well, why? It's just an asset that you're using some of it. So I have less equity in my house account, but more in the other accounts. It was just simply a better place to put it. And to have that option in the fourth quarter of life is powerful, because you can do so much more, because the only thing we know for sure is that things are going to change. I do not want, if somebody came to you and said, would you like to put $500,000 into an illiquid asset that never pays you any dividends and just requires you to keep sending money in? You'd say, well, I don't like that investment, but that's what a house is. You just keep putting money into it. You never get an income from it until you sell it, and you must put it in, or else you get in trouble, like you just mentioned, a foreclosure, whatever. Why would I want to put that much money into something that's illiquid, that I can't get my hands on, that I can't enjoy doing things with my kids, helping my kids, gifting when I see a worthy cause? I have a whole lot more control of the money than what I would if I just stuck it into my house, because you can't get money out of your house quickly without selling it or mortgaging it. And if you mortgage it, you usually have a payment for the next 15 or 30 years, or a HELOC with a required monthly payment of at least interest.
I mean, I think it's also the case that people drift into portfolio allocations that they never planned for, but they end up in nevertheless, right? So you might get some really good advice that says, look, put let's just say 30% of your assets in real estate, put 30% of your assets in stocks, let's just say 30% of your assets in gold and cryptocurrencies. I'm just obviously speaking hypothetically here. And the guy might go, well, yeah, but I've been making payments on my house and that takes a chunk of my income. I'm like 80% in real estate, not because I really want to be, but because I have a mortgage and I don't know another way that I can move any money around. And you're saying, hey, have I got a solution for you? And you do. Guys, I've been talking to Harlan Acola, and the book that you should get and you will get for free from Movement Mortgage is called Home Equity and Reverse Mortgages, the Cinderella of the Baby Boomer Retirement. I think you owe it to yourself to check this out, to learn more about this. It's a really flexible option that opens up some real doors for you. And the website, movement.com/Dinesh. It's movement.com/Dinesh. And also, Harlan, you have a number to give out if someone wants to call and get some questions answered. What is that number?
And that number is 580 reverse. And even if you don't want to really read a book, we'll just go over the details with your personal situation and say, what does it look like if you stop making a mortgage payment? People are shocked when they see what the results of that are. 580 reverse, and we'd be thrilled to just run through some options of how it could change your life.
Great stuff. Harlan Acola, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity to get the news out, Dinesh.